All right, today we are going to be giving you an NFL Combine preview. We're going to go through every single position group. We're going to go through multiple different players in each group, and we're going to tell you what we're looking for in terms of their Combine results. So the Combine, this year especially, I think is going to be hyper important for seeing how these prospects test out, for seeing how they weigh, seeing where they're going to end up going, because I know there are a lot of NFL scouts, NFL GMs that are really going to put a lot of stock into these results. So it's an important combine. We're going to be there, which is pretty cool.
We'll be tweeting all day.
Yeah, and we'll do some videos too. But we figured we'd do a preview video before we kind of get into the Combine stuff, and then we'll also do a video after the Combine. So, joining us today, a man that needs no introduction, a man that thinks about rookies all the time and dreams about them while he sleeps, Jeremy Johnson. Jeremy, if you talk for more than 2 minutes at a time in this video, I'm going to hang up on you. I'm not kidding.
I will do my best, my beautiful, darling boys. Yeah. Hello, all three of you in the same room.
And for the record, Jeremy is holding his mic because a certain Dynasty content creation organization forgot to get him a stand. So that's on me. But we're going to get it right into it today. First, Combine-related stuff is good content, and since we're going to be there, you should subscribe, because then when we have our videos that come out of us at the Combine, you can see them when they come up. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit a like on this video as well. We hope this is very useful for you. We hope it gives you a lot of information, and let's get into it. So we'll go by position here. There's a lot of the different things we're looking for each player, but I think we should start with quarterback, which is obviously going to be the most important position from an offensive standpoint in this draft, because there are multiple QBs in this draft that are projected at the moment to go top 15, which is a stark difference from last year where no QBs went top 15. Now you have a lot of teams that are looking for that cornerstone asset, that are looking for that quarterback to lead their team. And as you know, in today's league, you cannot compete without a quarterback like this. And there are multiple that people think potentially could be that level of quarterback. So starting with Bryce Young. I think the biggest question for Bryce Young, and I'll let Jeremy chime in on all of these, is going to be his weight. You know, what's Bryce Young going to weigh in at? How big is he going to be? You saw like the headlines that he was like working with his nutritionist to he is on some kind of special diet or something. But
just eat a few Big Macs before.
Do you have any predictions, Jeremy, about what he's going to weigh in at, how that's all going to sort itself out, and how his other measurables are going to be at the Combine, how that's going to help or hurt his draft stock?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much he's going to weigh in at. I think he'll be around the 5'10", 5'11" mark. He's listed out 6 feet, 194 on the Alabama team website, and we know from even the Senior Bowl that some of these guys that came in are significantly shorter or way less than what they're listed at. So there's that picture of him floating around online next to Mina Kimes, and he looks like he's only a couple inches taller than her, but she's claiming she's wearing heels in the picture. So I don't know to what extent his height's going to be. If I had to guess, I think it's going to be 5'10", 5'11". And if he could hit 200 pounds, that would be great. I wouldn't be shocked if he's under 200, though. I don't think it's like hyperbolic to say that Bryce Young is going to make or lose out on like millions of dollars come next week. So it's definitely the biggest storyline heading into the Combine for sure.
Yeah, I mean, let's just assume that he goes top 5, which I think we're all willing to assume that at this point. And if he goes top 5, do I really care that much about his size and think that, he's going to have to be an outlier? If he's going top 5, that means the NFL is assuming he's going to be an outlier. So I'll trust them for sure, because every successful QB in the NFL is already an outlier compared to the number of QBs that are drafted every single year. So if he's got the talent and he's got the showstopper ability, then he'll get that draft capital, and the size shouldn't be as big of a concern as I assume it probably will be in the Dynasty community.
Yeah, I totally agree. You got anything, Simon?
I mean, I'm not really worried about it much. He's been hyper productive in the SEC. It's not like he's playing a whole bunch of, future electricians or anything out there. So there's a lot of talent to go around in the SEC. He's played against the Georgia defense with multiple first round defensive talents, and he's dominated. So I'm not really worried about it.
So for Bryce Young, I think, again, the size is going to be the biggest thing for him. And then after that, I mean, we're going to be able to see him throw. I think he's going to do extremely well. I don't think anything's really going to change with his draft stock. I would assume he's going to weigh in again at 200 pounds. I really do think that he's at this point going to have bulked up enough to where he's going to do that, because I think Jeremy's right. I think it is millions of dollars on the line, and I think his camp knows that. So I would bet that he'll come in there, and I would bet that Bryce Young's not going to have any issues at the combine. If he did, that would be probably the biggest storyline coming out of the combine by far. So, all right, moving on to CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, the size is not an issue with Stroud. He's tall enough. Speaking of, playing against Georgia defenses, we saw him in that last game against Georgia. He played extremely well. CJ Stroud, the biggest question with him is going to be his athleticism. So which drills specifically, Jeremy, are you looking for with CJ Stroud to kind of measure his athleticism? Where would you like to see those kind of results trickle in at? And what does he have to do to cement his status as a potential top 5 pick in the NFL draft this year?
Yeah, so with Stroud, like you said, the athleticism, I don't think that he's going to particularly have any issues throwing the ball in shorts. I think he's going to look great doing that. So I think what it really comes down to is how explosive is he. So like his lower body explosive drills that are going to be specific to that are like the 3-cone, the vertical, the broad jump, 40 time for a quarterback. I mean, it doesn't particularly matter as long as they're not running like a 5 for CJ Stroud. So I think it would be interesting if he came out and like really performed well at the combine. If he ran like 4.6 or something like that, and he had a pretty good 3-cone time and stuff, that would showcase that he's a better athlete than people are expecting. Because comps, I think Dane Brugler comped him to like a slightly more athletic Jared Goff, which
it's a nice comp.
Exactly a like dual threat capable quarterback. So I do think there's a possibility CJ Stroud does have a little bit of that in his game. You saw it when they played against Georgia in the college football playoff. So I'd be interested to see what his lower body explosives look like come combine day.
Yeah, absolutely. CJ Stroud's a guy that I've personally been high on for a long time. I obviously,
and you're calling him going first off the board.
Yeah, I'll say I'm going to keep calling my shot. I think CJ Stroud will be the first quarterback off the board in the NFL draft. Obviously, Bryce Young is the favorite, and that's no secret. Bryce Young is plenty good in his own right. I mean, I would if Bryce Young goes first overall, it's not I'm going to be surprised by any means. But I do think CJ Stroud is kind of getting lost here in the hype behind Bryce Young, and then the question marks behind Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. I think Stroud is just a good prospect, and I think that given the non-concern about his size, given what he was able to do in college from a production standpoint, given his athleticism that I think we'll see on display at the combine that he hasn't always used, but I think he will show that he at least has it. And if he can start to play like it, that's even better. I think CJ Stroud is a surefire top 5 pick. But we said that Malik Willis would be a top 1 round pick, so that shows what we know.
Yeah, and don't be turned off by the Jared Goff comps or more athletic Jared Goff. I mean, Jared Goff is a good NFL QB, and if he's been to a Super Bowl, and if Jared Goff was a more athletic Jared Goff, then Jared Goff would be really, really good. So I think Stroud being compared to him is very, very relevant. Definitely see a lot of similarities in their game if you watch their film, and that doesn't turn me off from him as a prospect at all.
Yeah. All right. Moving on, we're going to go to Anthony Richardson now. This is going to be one of the most polarizing prospects in this draft. You've heard a lot about Anthony Richardson in terms of the fact that his film is really bad in terms of passing the ball. But as an athlete, he is incredible. He's incredible. So there's some big questions.
One of the best I've seen.
Yeah. Is he going to test his athleticism, and how much does it help him? Is he going to run the 40? I think it will be interesting to see him throw as well. Everybody wanted to point out the fact that he was working out with Malik Willis, which meant pretty much absolutely nothing. But at the same time, I think the combine is going to be a place where he could really help his stock. And I think after the combine, we're going to get a good idea of how Anthony Richardson is valued by these NFL teams. I think if he does do well at the combine, you're going to start hearing that buzz for him to go top 10. Top 5 even potentially. I mean, the betting odds for Anthony Richardson at this point going number 1 are going up every single day, which is completely surprising to me. And I think maybe that the sports betting companies are trying to make money off of people. But Jeremy, do you think there's a legit possibility that Anthony Richardson can go top 5? And what does he have to do at the combine to make that happen?
I do think there's a legit possibility that he could go top 5 in the NFL draft for sure, especially with your boy Shane Steichen getting hired over there in Indianapolis. I think it's a match made in heaven, but I won't wish that juju upon you guys. Yeah, it's interesting because the last dual threat quarterback that we really saw in 2018, Justin Fields would have ran at the combine, but they didn't have it in 2021. He probably would have put up a pretty good 40 time. So Lamar chose not to run it because he didn't want people to say that he shouldn't play quarterback. So I don't think that's going to be in the conversations for Anthony Richardson. I think everybody does see him as a quarterback. So I think he should run it because I don't think that he has anything to lose from running it. I think it would only put him of overall athletes that we've seen at 4.33 at his size. You can make a step foot on an NFL field, but that's probably not going to happen. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he runs like high 4.4s at the quarterback position, which would still be insane given his size. So yeah, I think there's a very real possibility that he could go top 5 with a strong combine performance.
Yeah, I think my prediction is that all eyes are going to be on Anthony Richardson this combine, and he's probably going to be the star of the show for better or for worse. I mean, whether he looks really good or not as promising, he is going to be the poster child of the 2023 NFL Combine. Everything he does there, the team meetings he has with everyone in the NFL, what they think about his leadership ability, his character, his ability to improve his game is going to speak volumes. It's going to be a huge deal. There's going to be a ton of reports coming out. There's going to be a lot of talk, a lot of buzz with AR, and I think it's all merited, and his film speaks for itself. So,
yeah, I mean, we said Bryce Young was the showstopper, but I think come Combine, AR will be the star of the show. I mean, he's, like you said, all eyes are going to be on him, and honestly, you know, he has all the tools to succeed in the NFL. If he can fix his accuracy problem, I mean, we've seen him be able to operate and make reads in an offense, you know, a decent percentage of the time in his film. And I've really grown on him the more I've watched. But, you know, as we've seen, so many NFL teams are placing the emphasis on the natural talent, you know, the athleticism. And there's no question, and we're about to see to what extent AR has that. So we're really excited.
Yeah, he's got the highest fantasy ceiling for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then let's move to Will Levis, wrapping up the quarterback position. This is the last guy we'll talk about today. Will Levis, obviously rehabbing a toe injury still, so he didn't play at the Senior Bowl, didn't even attend the Senior Bowl because of that. And there were some that said that was maybe a bad decision. I don't know. The Senior Bowl, you know, if you haven't heard about the Senior Bowl, it's kind of not what it used to be at this point. But at the same time, I think it would be wise for him to come out and spin at the NFL Combine. I think there are a lot of question marks around Will Levis. And I guess from a business decision standpoint, I could see his camp saying, because of what teams already think about him potentially, I don't know if teams think this or not, that he should just not do anything. He should continue to rehab. I think it would be wise for him to do it. I think that once he does, we're going to know a lot more about him. Potentially. I mean, he's obviously, you're going in the combine, you're not against live defenses, but it would be good to see Will Levis in action, in my opinion. So Jeremy, what are you looking for with Will Levis, and how much does he have to gain or lose by coming out and performing at the combine if he does choose to do that?
So you're kind of like reading my mind. You pretty much covered everything that I would have said about Will Levis. I don't know if he's going to throw at the combine because he had every opportunity to go to the Senior Bowl, and by all accounts, he probably should have been the best talent at the quarterback position and put some good tape out there, but he was apparently rehabbing from that injury. I don't know to what extent that injury really was the determining factor behind him not playing in the Senior Bowl. I think it was more or less, we don't need even more bad tape of this guy like out there for like another year. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to throw. I don't. So like a lot of the quarterbacks too, like I mean, you've seen over the past 5 or so years that these guys have quarterback coaches. They train, they get a script, they know exactly what throws they're going to be making, where they're going to be making them. They've been working with the receivers, working the script, and the combine isn't as of a controlled environment for these quarterbacks to throw, and they don't have that kind of rapport with the receivers. So with a guy like Will Levis or a guy like Anthony Richardson that have accuracy concerns, do you see them go to the combine and actually throw? And what happens if they're inaccurate at the combine too when they're wearing shorts? Does that just tank their value even more? I can't answer for every team. I know just as like a dynasty owner, it doesn't look great that they're wearing shorts and like he's still not completing passes and stuff like that. So I don't know if he's going to throw. If I were telling Will Levis what to do, I would tell him not to and wait until his pro day, because he's already skipped out on the Senior Bowl. So why even bother throw at the combine?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, I have mixed feelings about it, because there's already so much talk about whether the combine's even worth it for some of these players, whether it's worth it for the NFL to be scouting these guys when they're, again, just wearing shorts, essentially just wearing tights and running as fast as they can out there. How much does that really translate to NFL play? And for someone like Levis, if he can rehab that, take more time, and pro day is what people are really going to look at, then I would say he should probably hold off as well, especially if he's not even going to run the 40, because like that's not even necessary, I don't think, for him. If he even did the combine, I don't think he would do the 40.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the biggest driver right now, wouldn't you say, in Levis's value is his measurables and his athletics.
Yes. Yes.
But
yeah,
the thing that the more I've watched him and comparing him to AR is, one, Levis is almost 2 years older, and two, AR is a better athlete in almost every way. So what is there to make an NFL team desire Levis more than AR? And if he's going to the combine, I don't know why he would go up against him and try to compete in that way when we already probably know AR is the better athlete. I don't know if he'd want to even set that up to happen. I don't know if he wants to allow that comparison. Just let his tape and what he's put out on film speak for itself.
All right, moving on to running backs. We're going to go to the running back position, and I think this is where a lot of guys have a lot on the line here. For running back specifically, measurables are going to be a key factor for quite a few guys. And I'm kind of reading off of the notes that Jeremy put together here, but Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously, Devon Achane, it's going to be huge for Devon Achane. Even Zach Evans, Deuce Vaughn, Sean Tucker. I think that a lot can be either won or lost here based on how these guys end up, weighing in, how they end up, how tall they end up being in the combine. And I think, especially with Jahmyr Gibbs and Devon Achane, two guys that are at this point projected to be fairly good prospects and probably top 3-round picks, I think it's going to be huge. I think Gibbs is going to have to weigh in at a size where an NFL team is comfortable taking him in the late first, in the early second, and I think Achane could potentially be the same. So, Jeremy, when you're talking about measurables, what specifically are you looking for some of these guys individually, real quick, as we kind of rattle through these dudes?
Yeah, and just to cover the Senior Bowl running backs real quick, all of them measured in really well in terms of height and weight with their BMI. Even Tajay Spears was 5'9", 204. So
nice. You
don't really have to be on any of it. There's no concern at the combine for those guys, because Spears was the only guy that came in under 210 pounds. So at the Senior Bowl.
Good.
So all those guys have come in, measured, and they've hit those parameters. Unfortunately, what happens is with these running backs is that these scouts want to just check off a box. So they just want to see the guy weigh 200 pounds. So it doesn't really matter what their height is. I mean, BMI-wise, if the guy was 6 feet, 200, that might be a little light, but he's at least hitting the 200-pound threshold. So for guys like Gibbs, Achane, Vaughn, Zach Evans, you've seen like 5'11", 195 to 6 feet, 215. Like that's a pretty wide spectrum of measurements. So is he going to weigh in over 200? Keaton Mitchell's another guy, 5'9", 185. I think for guys like Achane and Mitchell, if they were able to hit 190 at 5'9", I think that would be okay. You would love to see 195. I don't think 200 is in the range of outcomes. I don't think that's going to happen. And if it did, it would severely impact their explosiveness in these drills that they're going to be doing. So I don't think that would be of their best interest to even come in at 200 anyway. So I think 195 would be, the sweet spot. That would be great. If it's 190, that's still okay. They just have to make sure that their explosiveness is really good at the combine. Guy like Gibbs, you almost want Gibbs to not be 5'11". You want him to be like 5'10", so he does have a better chance of getting to like that 200-pound threshold. Because if he's 5'11", 200, I can tell you what that profile says. He's a running back on the Buffalo Bills right now, and it's not Devin Singletary. So
Nyheim Hines.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with the size of those guys.
Genius.
I think those are the guys that we have to be looking out for in terms of size concerns, though. Yeah.
Well, Nathan figured out the puzzle, so he gets a cookie after this. That was that's great salute to Nathan. It was really good.
I was saying it for the viewer.
Well, they know who it is.
Wow, we're on Sesame Street here. So what are we looking for Deuce Vaughn to weigh in at? Because he's listed at 5'6", 173, and obviously, special production in college, even at that tiny size. I mean, he belongs on Sesame Street with how small he is. But I mean, what are the parameters we're looking for Deuce Vaughn to hit?
Deuce Vaughn just unsubscribed to Dynasty Domain right there. I think unless Deuce Vaughn had some magic beans and grew a couple inches, I'm not sure. I think either way it's going to be underwhelming in terms of his measurables.
I'm sorry.
What if he runs like a 4.32? At that size,
he'll be a good special teams guy. Like I'm sorry, I just don't see it with Deuce Vaughn. The NFL is unforgiving when it comes to size, especially at the running back position, like the size of Deuce Vaughn. I'm not seeing it. There's a lot of elite producers in college that don't translate to the NFL, and to me, Deuce Vaughn just screams that.
Yeah, I think so too. Let's talk about some athleticism for a couple guys. We're already at 20 minutes here. Bijan Robinson. I think what people are going to be looking for specifically with Bijan is going to be his 40 time, because a lot of people want to comp him to Saquon. I see it on Twitter all the time.
He's not Saquon.
The problem is, number one, skill set wise, and when you watch it, his film coming out of college, he's not Saquon. Saquon, his film was like otherworldly. If you watch his Penn State film, it's ridiculous.
It was like, this guy could be the best running back of all time.
Bijan's is too, but you can clearly tell, especially I think the number one thing that you can tell the difference between the two of them is I don't think Bijan has the breakaway burner speed that Saquon had coming out of college. I think now they're probably about the same, about just as fast, now that Saquon's kind of lost a step. But with Bijan, how fast is his 40? I think that's going to be the most important thing here. And, I think it's going to also be really important to look at his 3-cone, some of his footwork drills. I'm sure he'll do very well at that. But that's kind of what I'm looking for with Bijan. Jeremy, if you want to pick out a couple of these guys real quick and do just some quick hitter, what are you looking for athleticism-wise from some of these guys we have on the list?
Yeah, so and you covered it kind of at the beginning that it's going to be important for these guys to separate themselves athletically, because a lot of their film is really good for. We've had so many different rankings from like 2 to 8 in terms of our best running backs in the class. So I think in athletic terms, Zach Charbonnet is going to have to answer some questions when it comes to his 40 time, because you could see on tape that he's not a breakaway runner. So, and I've comped him to James Conner, who ran a 4.65 at the combine. So hopefully it's not a 4.65. If it is, it's not the end of the world. I do think the 40 time is a little overstated when it comes to the running back position, particularly because you're more so depending on their vision and their short area agility as opposed to their long end speed. It's great if they have it, but it's not a deal breaker necessarily if they don't. Some of the drills that you're going to see at the combine are the blast read, the off tackle reaction, the find the ball drill, which is a receiving drill around the line of scrimmage. Kendre Miller is going to be a name to watch. If he comes in at like 6 feet, 225. I sent that picture of you guys to you guys of him in like that tank top, crop top, belly shirt, whatever it was. His neck is just gigantic in that picture. So if he comes in at like 6 feet, like 230, that would be pretty insane. But a guy that I think is going to, two guys, but this guy in particular, Sean Tucker, I think is really going to need to have an exceptional combine, because a lot of scouts are down on his tape. And I think people are kind of forgetting that he is like a track athlete, that he's a very good athlete, that I think he's going to test really well at the combine. So I think that's going to be his saving grace. If he comes in a worse tester than I'm expecting him to be, I think it could be potentially a long draft cycle for Sean Tucker. And Zach Evans is another one that, because of his limited workload, people are going to want to see an exceptional athlete. So I think those are the names that I would quickly highlight.
Yeah, Kenny McIntosh would probably be the one that I would highlight on top of that as well. I think his we don't really know what his 40 time is going to be. It was very, very, very slow from high school. I think that can go up significantly, but can it go up enough that he's going to be boosted up draft boards quite a bit, because he doesn't really have the college production at Georgia to really stand out, he's going to have a lot of impressive measurables and athleticism that will push him up those draft boards and maybe even go in the third round, which I think is a possibility for him.
Yeah. Any standouts for you, Simon?
Nope. Covered it all.
All right. Looking at the wide receiver position now. Measurables. Josh Downs, obviously a smaller dude. Probably going to be a top 2-round pick in this draft, I would say. Also looking at JSN, Jordan Addison is a smaller guy, and then Marvin Mims is on here. And, I hope he's bigger than what his profile says he is. But, Jeremy, any thoughts on these guys' measurables and what specifically you're looking for?
Yeah, Tyler Scott's a name that I would add to there as well. He's listed at like 5'11", 177, I think. So Tank Dell and Zay Flowers have already had their measurements. Tank Dell, 5'8", 163. I mean, that's very tiny. We're talking Tutu Atwell. Zay Flowers, 5'9", 182. With the 70% out wide profile is also very small. So there's concerns there that he may not be able to get off press coverage on the outside. And does that mean that he has to translate to a slot role? Jordan Addison, I think he's going to come in around 6 feet. Maybe he gets to 180. If he gets to 180, great. But I think he's played in the 170s for most of his college career. Josh Downs, 5'10". I would be very surprised if he's any heavier than like 170, 175. I don't think that he's going to be in like that 180 range. Those are some of the guys that we covered with size concerns. Xavier Hutchinson and Rashee Rice and A.T. Perry, they've already been measured at the Senior Bowl and the Shrine Bowl, and they came in a couple of inches shorter than they were listed on their college profiles. So that's already a knock on them, and I think that they're going to have to answer for some things athletically as well, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, I think so too. Anything, guys?
Yeah, I mean, from an athletic standpoint, I think we've got Jalen Hyatt on here. He's a guy that's been starting to be mocked towards the end of the first round in the NFL, and he's a guy that was hyper productive in college and the alpha receiver there. I think in the early stages of our analysis, we really preferred Cedric Tillman. I'm probably starting to lean the Hyatt route for sure now, especially with his reputation and where he's starting to be mocked. But with him, we've always kind of been critical of his play, just sort of saying he's not very versatile in what he can do. And I think in the drills of the combine, if he can show that versatility, if he can show that explosiveness, if he can show that he's speedy and shifty at the same time, then I think the hype could be real. So
yeah, I mean it's really hard to judge both of those Tennessee wide receivers, Hyatt and Tillman, because that scheme was just designed to get people running open, and that's the problem with him. And I'm not even sure the combine will show much with that. It's not like Hyatt running a really fast 40 is going to tell us that he can have a good release package. So it'll just depend on what the NFL thinks of him specifically, and if they think he has a high ceiling, then so do I.
Yeah. I think the measurables are more important than the athleticism for Jalen Hyatt. But moving on to the athleticism, a guy that actually you don't have listed here, Jeremy, that I am really looking forward to seeing how he tests out is Jackson Smith-Njigba. I think there are a lot of reports and scouts that think that, obviously he makes his living, or he made his living mostly in the slot. And because of that, obviously he's a very good route runner. He's very good at finding holes in the zone. But I think there are a lot of people that are questioning his athleticism. And for me, I think what Jackson Smith-Njigba has to do in order to cement himself as the wide receiver one in this class is he has to test well from an athleticism standpoint. Other guys that we have on here that we're looking for athleticism things are Cedric Tillman, Quentin Johnson, Jalen Hyatt. So any of those you want to pick out, Jeremy, and talk about in terms of athleticism from the wide receiver position?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba has the most to win or lose at this combine, because his profile in college is him as a slot receiver. Around 85% of his snaps are in the slot. So if he does come in and he's limited athletically, then does that cause NFL teams to be concerned that, hey, we might not be able to put this guy on the outside? Because I know we've talked about the Justin Jefferson comp to him playing a lot in the slot, but Justin Jefferson came in and he ran 4.43 at the combine. So he was fairly athletic there. So if Jackson Smith-Njigba has those concerns, do we see him maybe fall down the draft board a little bit because he doesn't profile as much or project to be an outside receiving threat? I do think there's a possibility he just pulls a Drake London, though, and doesn't really test or anything. Just goes there and gets measured, and that's about it. And he just waits until the Ohio State Pro Day, because that's what Drake London did and worked out for him just fine. Quentin Johnston has a chance to really separate himself here at the Combine. A lot of people are talking about his inability to catch with his hands and be a body catcher, but all that's well and good. If he comes in at 6'4", 215 and runs 4.4, there's going to be a lot of people that are looking around being like, okay, well, haven't really seen that in a long time. Josh Downs, Trey Palmer, Andre Iosivas, the Princeton wide receiver, Jordan Addison. I think all those guys are going to test very well at the Combine. I think a guy that also has a lot to lose or to gain would be Kayshon Boutte.
Yes.
We obviously know their character potential concerns. I'm not going to act like I know what's going on at LSU. There's a lot of conflicting reports, though. Some of them aren't necessarily painting Kayshon Boutte in the greatest light. That being said, if he shows up at the Combine and he looks like a premier athlete, which we all do anticipate him doing, Kayshon Boutte has a really good opportunity here to shoot back up draft boards to where he once was at the beginning of the college football season.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then, touching back on the three wide receivers that we're really, really interested in at the top of our drafts in Dynasty, I think JSN does have a lot to lose or gain here. And I've seen some mock drafts where Jordan Addison and Quentin Johnston both went ahead of Jackson Smith-Njigba in the actual NFL draft. And I think this is a possible outcome here. I think if you see Jackson Smith-Njigba may potentially not test, which again, whether that's a good or bad idea, I don't know. But you see Jordan Addison, and he weighs in at plenty, and his size is fine. He's obviously going to do great in the athleticism drills. And then you see Quentin Johnston, who has the size, and he also does well in the athleticism drills. I think there are going to be a lot of teams that are going to feel very comfortable taking Jordan Addison and Quentin Johnston that high. I think they have that skill set. I think they're already being projected to go there. Which other guys are you guys looking at, or those guys, for athleticism, and as we kind of wrap this up here?
Simon, you first.
One of the guys I like specifically, I'm excited to see Parker Washington. Someone I really like the way he runs after the catch. Kind of seems like a running back, so I want to see him test out, run a fast 40. Another guy, I don't know if you were going to touch on him, is Puka Nacua out of BYU.
That was mine.
Yeah, he kind of has more of a gadget role. He had plenty of rushing this year at BYU, so you want to see him be real athletic. To kind of up his stock for an NFL to want him just as a guy to give the ball to. Not super polished as a receiver, but if they see the tools they like, then they'll take a shot.
Yeah, I guess since you took mine, I'll go with Xavier Hutchinson. I'd like to see, especially his ability to track the ball and not just lay out for no reason, which I saw a lot of in his film. So that would be nice to see for those deep balls that the QBs in this class are going to be, chucking to the receivers in the Combine. So
a lot on the line for this year's NFL Combine. It's going to be very interesting. I think there are going to be a lot of people tuned in. Like I said, we are going to be there. So we're going to do videos while we're at the Combine. We're going to be live tweeting. We might even get maybe go live with some videos. So we're going to try to bring you all the content we can from the Combine. And then obviously after the Combine with a full reaction videos, we're going to break down all the results. We're going to bring Jeremy back on. He's going to talk about things we don't understand. And then we are going to see how this is going to start lining up. Guys, the NFL draft is not all that far away, actually. I think we're at 2 months now, which is crazy. Yeah. 2 months until the Colts draft CJ Stroud. I cannot believe it's that close. But obviously, we're all hopeful that this is going to be a very, very entertaining NFL Combine, NFL draft process, and that come April, come May, we are drafting some crazy good rookies based on what we see out of this Combine. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. We've got Combine rookie analysis coming out all the time, which means you have to subscribe, or what are you doing with your life, right? So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video as well. It takes you 5 seconds. It's the big thumbs up down there, and it helps us out a ton. We really appreciate all of you. Make sure you go down and check out our locals page as well. You can get access to our Discord. We talk about these rookies with our DD community all the time. We do trade scenarios. We do rankings. We'll have rookie rankings, things like that. So make sure you check that out as well. As always, we appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for joining us. Have a good day. We'll see you later.